Yes, sir.
Okay, so let's have a very short debate. I don't know, maybe how many minutes do you want it? 15?
No, no, no,
10?
no. Let's have a formal moderated debate.
Oh, I can't do that right now.
Well, neither can I. But let's do a formal moderated debate. Sit down for some
Okay.
time in the
Well,
future. That suits us both.
well, can we at least talk right now? Let's not call it a debate. Let's call it a conversation.
Um,
And nobody's going to interrupt us. Johnny's going to have an iron fist, right, Johnny?
Yeah, I think you should probably at least take some opportunity, Gavin, because in Sandbox you do get a lot more leniency than you would in Gestalt. So I mean,
yeah,
you're
sure.
not obligated to have a conversation with anyone, but I thought you guys were going to actually have the conversation here that was attempted to be had in Gestalt. But yeah, that's up to you guys.
Yeah, I don't mind having that conversation, but I don't want to talk about personal things.
No, no, we won't. I was thinking we could have a conversation about what's most important to you and what was most important to me, and that's Christianity. I'm no longer a Christian, but so I typically say something like this, and I'll make this as a claim that it is more likely, more reasonable to believe that a book or a bunch of books used literary techniques and storytelling to describe a man 2,000 years ago and stating that he rose from the dead when really he didn't in bodily form. So I'll just keep it short like that. What's your response to that?
Hang on. Hang on. One moment.
You're drinking coffee?
No, it's tea.
Ah, yes. You're from New Zealand. Red rose tea.
We're very English down here in New Zealand.
Yeah.
So the reason, well, one of there's many reasons why I came to faith, but one of them was the overwhelming evidence of what was written in the Bible, especially the life, death, and crucifixion and resurrection of Christ. So there's strong internal evidence, but no atheist is going to accept that. But there's also strong external evidence of Christ resurrecting. So
Okay.
much,
Yeah, I
I don't think
understand.
there's been any more written about one particular person in the history of mankind than Christ. So that is all very, very plausible and good evidence for me.
Okay, I understand. Like, I would say this to what you just said. If the evidence was so strong, you would think that it would convince atheists, and not just atheists, but non-Christians. And so there's a reason why, let's say, Orthodox Jews don't believe Jesus rose from the dead, or Muslims, or even Hindus. And I would also say that I think it's false that there's been more written about Jesus than any other man. If you actually take even the so-called red letter words of Jesus, you could read it out loud probably in 25 minutes. And we have much more contemporary evidence from, let's say, Tiberius in the same period of time where people wrote about him while he was alive. So we have far more contemporary evidence for a guy named Tiberius than we do for Jesus. What do you say to that?
Well, I say that you're making a claim, PineCreek, and I don't believe claims until I see evidence.
You think I'm making what? A crime? I didn't hear you.
A claim,
Oh,
a
claim.
claim, CLAIM.
A claim. So you disagree with my claim that there's more written about Tiberius from the first century than Jesus?
I don't believe a claim unless I can see the evidence that supports that claim.
Okay. Is that your default position that you don't believe things unless evidence can overcome it? So, for example, if you and I hear a claim that a man in New Zealand last week rose from the dead, would you believe it automatically?
If there was evidence, of course I would.
Okay, what evidence would it take for you personally to believe that someone in New
Hey,
Zealand?
Doug,
Yeah.
Doug. I'm not playing the dog and pony show with you.
Okay.
Understand?
Okay. I'll rephrase. I would not believe if I heard a claim that last week a man rose from the dead in New Zealand, and I would need, in order for me to believe that, I would need strong verification that he was dead in the first place. I would need witnesses of different biases, like Muslims, Hindus, Jews, atheists. They all say, yeah, this guy was alive, he died, and then he came back to life.
Oh wow,
Video
wow.
evidence,
So,
yeah, that
so,
sort of thing.
so the testimony of medical professionals wouldn't be enough for you, okay?
No, I just said it
There'd
would
have to
be.
be there'd have to be Muslims involved. Who else? Jehovah Witnesses. You want them involved as well?
Well, the different biases, the better.
Wow, wow. Okay, well that's you.
May I ask what it would take for you?
Oh, it would take strong evidence, and particularly strong evidence would be the medical people that were involved in the event affirming that this particular person was dead as, I mean dead as, no signs of life whatsoever.
Okay.
And for whatever reason, they came back to life like a miracle.
Okay. So you would believe, I just want to make sure I'm hearing you right. You would believe if medical professionals told you that this person was actually dead and then actually alive. So let me ask you this. Well, I'll do it in form of a claim. I do not believe there was medical professionals that verified that Jesus was dead, nor medical professionals who verified that he was alive 3 days later.
Yeah, that's not news, Doug. It's not new news. Everybody kind of knows that.
Okay. So the requirement that you gave that would make you believe that someone rose from the dead in New Zealand is not there in the New Testament, correct?
Again, you're not telling me anything that's like new news, like startling or something that hasn't been covered before.
Okay. So I would claim that I would not believe a man from New Zealand rose from the dead after 3 days if someone gave me a diary from one man who claims 15 years ago a man from New Zealand rose from the dead. I would not believe it. How about you?
Um, God, you talk in riddles, don't you?
No.
Jesus was dead. Excuse me. Jesus was dead as he was laid in the tomb of Joseph of Arimathea because he'd been on the cross for some 6 hours. Plus, they'd thrust a sword into his body, which pierced the pleural pleural epicardial lining as well as the so off the top of my head. Come on.
Yeah, he was stabbed and his hands were pierced. I understand. Like I know the Christian story, but I was asking you about the guy in New Zealand. If a guy in New Zealand,
Yeah, well, I'm talking about Jesus on the cross and how dead he was.
right? And
So
so
anyway, once that, why do you have to talk so fast?
I'm sorry, I'll slow down.
This is not this is not a race to see who can get the most words in. Um, yeah, that spear thrust into his side and no reaction from this hanging body of Christ and blood and water gushed out. That's a really good indication that somebody is dead as
Okay,
pericardium.
I agree with you.
Pericardium.
Gavin,
pericardial.
Gavin, I agree with you.
uh,
If it's true that someone's hanging on a crucifixion cross and someone takes a spear and stabs them right in the guts and they don't move, I agree with you. That's good evidence that they're dead.
and there's a gushing out of accumulation of water and blood. That's another good sign. So yeah, he was dead,
Okay.
physically dead anyway.
And that's not like people dying in gruesome ways is nothing new. The real question is people coming back from that death 3 days later. So if 15 years have gone by since a guy in New Zealand has been dead and claimed to be resurrected, and it's based on, let's say, a guy writing a diary saying that a guy died and appeared in front of 500, appeared in front of 12, and then finally to the author. But we're talking about the guy in New Zealand now, not Jesus. I claim that that would be insufficient evidence to believe it. How about you?
Um, uh, if it happened in New Zealand, again, I'd still want to see medical verification from professionals that that is actually what happened for it to be believable.
You would
I
need
think that's fair.
say that part one more time. Sorry, your audio's not the best.
If that happened to a guy in New Zealand, I'd want to see accompanying medical documentation that verified that what was claimed actually happened.
Okay. You know what, Gavin? You and I are the same. I mean, I would
Very
definitely,
good.
I definitely would want more. I wouldn't take this 15-year-old document at face value and say, oh, this guy really died. Oh, this guy really rose from the dead just because a 15-year-old document says so. And it sounds like you're the same way. So let me ask you this. Well, I'll put it in the form of a claim. Based on Paul's letters alone, I do not believe Jesus rose from the dead. How about you? Because they were written 15 years
Um,
later.
yeah, based on the entire Bible, I believe that Christ resurrected from the dead, and
Okay,
it was
okay,
the Father who resurrected him, the Holy Spirit who resurrected him, and Jesus himself who rose himself from the grave. This
fair
is
enough.
all in the Bible.
I completely
So
understand
I
that.
believe it.
Yeah, Gavin, I completely understand that, and you make a good point that this is a cumulative case, and that we shouldn't just go by one piece of evidence alone, like Paul's letters. But what I'm hearing you say is that if we didn't have the New Testament except for Paul's letters, that would not be enough for you to believe Jesus rose from the dead. Am I hearing you right?
We've got external evidence from Josephus and Tacitus as well.
Right. But based on Paul's letters alone, you would not believe Jesus rose from the dead. You'd be just like me.
No, no, I didn't say that.
Well, let
I
me
didn't
ask
say
you.
that.
Let me ask you. If all you had was Paul's letters, no epistles, no gospels, you still have the Old Testament, but now you just have Paul's letters. Would you believe Jesus rose from the dead?
But I don't just have Paul's letters, do I?
Yeah,
I
you're
have a
right.
lot more.
I know you have a lot more, a lot more. But I'm just asking you about Paul's letters for now.
Yeah,
How
well,
could
what
you
about
possibly
Paul's
know that?
letters? Who was that?
Just ignore that person.
Who was that? Who was that
Oh, it's me.
random
I said, how can you
guy that
possibly
said?
know that?
Okay,
Oh, what's your
Johnny, are
name,
you?
random
This is not
speaker?
going to work
Yeah,
if.
yeah, just let
Yeah.
Doug and Gavin have a conversation.
And we're not going to go much longer. Like, I just want to keep this short. I just want a friendly conversation. Like at one, like I would claim. Tell me if you agree with this claim, Gavin. I claim that Paul wrote some of the first books of the New Testament, and when he did, the Gospels didn't exist. Do you agree with that claim?
Um, Paul wrote some of the earlier stuff covering the life,
Right.
death, and resurrection of Christ, and
Right.
he also hang on. and he also um, uh, wrote and distributed what's called a pre-Pauline creed, and
Yep.
this is basically laying out the simple essentials of the resurrection and the crucifixion.
Right.
And that's been dated even by non-religious people or non-Christian people to be anywhere from a few months after the event, but no later than 5 years after the event, which is pretty quick. There's not enough time for legend to develop within that kind of time span, so it's been accepted as being accurate.
Yeah, I agree with you on almost everything you said. I disagree with you that legend cannot develop very quickly. In fact, there was a New Testament historian who said there was a rumor about him spread in the university on a Monday, and by Friday had gone throughout the whole university, something completely false in a matter of a week. But I would say that the writings that we have, the actual eyewitness testimony we have, was from Paul 15 years, about 15, 10, even 10 years after the purported event, and the Gospels didn't even exist yet. I think that's pretty fair to say. Do you agree?
Yeah, but you're forgetting one thing. The eyewitnesses that saw the risen Jesus saw him. Jesus appeared to individuals, he appeared to small groups, and he appeared to a really large group. The individuals that Paul mentions, they were still alive at the time, so they could have been easily interviewed about whether they were making it up or it was the truth.
Ah, that's a great point. Excellent point. And I'm going to make a claim here that an eyewitness account is when someone identifies themselves and tells people what they themselves saw. So if another person says what someone else saw, that is not an eyewitness account. Are we agreed on that?
Actually, yes, but that doesn't happen in the Bible.
What doesn't happen?
What you're alleging an eyewitness account is not.
So Paul says, I, a servant of Christ, have seen these things. Jesus appeared to me, for example, in 1 Corinthians 15. That is an eyewitness account. Do you agree?
Yes,
Okay, so we're
yes.
agreed. We're agreed that's an eyewitness account. Can you give me another eyewitness account other than Paul in any
Yeah.
place in the New Testament?
Well, we can just go to 1 Corinthians 15.
No, that's the one I
That's a
gave.
good.
That's the one I'm giving you. I mean, I agree with you. That's an eyewitness account of Paul identifying himself in the first person and saying that Jesus appeared to him. But what I'm asking is, can you give me another eyewitness account as I defined it? Someone saying, this is what I saw. I am Paul, and this is what I saw. Can you give me something like that, a second eyewitness account in the New Testament?
I don't need to because I can just give you the gospel from 1 Corinthians 15.
Okay,
All right.
so you
What
don't
does he
need.
say?
So you would believe a man rose from the dead based on one eyewitness account?
You're forgetting. You're just not with it, eh? Let me read it to you. So
I've read First Corinthians
again,
15.
this is yeah. I know. You're salivating to get a victory here. So Paul is writing, for what I received, I passed on to you as of first importance, that Christ died for our sins according to the scriptures, that he was buried, and that he was raised on the third day according to the scriptures, and that he appeared to Cephas. That's Peter in Aramaic. And
Yep.
then to the 12. The 12 who? The 12 disciples. After that, he appeared to more than 500 of the brothers and sisters at the same time, most of whom are still living, though some have fallen asleep, which is just a polite way to say that they've passed on. Then he appeared to James, the half brother of Christ, and then to all the apostles. And then last of all, he appeared to me, also as one abnormally warm. So that's a lot of people that Paul is naming, or Paul is indicating, that have seen the risen Christ,
Yeah, I agree.
isn't it?
I agree. But are they? How many eyewitness accounts do we have in 1 Corinthians 15?
How many?
Yeah.
Well,
Is it one or more than one?
it's more than one,
Okay.
according to Paul.
Okay. So there's a guy named Eric in this room right now. If I told you that Eric saw a Great Dane, huge dog yesterday, is that an eyewitness account from Eric?
What?
If Eric's
Say it again.
If I tell you
If,
that a guy named Eric saw a Great Dane yesterday, is that an eyewitness account?
if you told me that Eric saw a Great Dane yesterday, is that an eyewitness account? You didn't see the Great Dane.
No, I didn't, but Eric told me he did, and then I'm telling you, is that an eyewitness account?
Well, Eric's the eyewitness. You're not the eyewitness because you're the second
Correct.
party.
The 500.
Yeah.
Paul was the Paul.
I know what you're trying to angle for. I know what you're trying to angle
What
for.
am I
But
trying to
you've got to
angle for?
remember, Doug, you, you're trying, you're trying to angle to cast doubt on what the scripture's saying. But
We just
Doug,
want to figure
you've
out
got to
what's true.
remember. Excuse me. Stop the spurging.
I'm
Um,
sorry.
you've got to remember that for 2,000 years, atheists have been trying to discredit the Bible. And the Bible is still um, the world's premier religious book that is being sold, and Christianity is still the world's largest religion, while atheism and agnosticism represent a tiny 7% of the global population.
May I ask why you're talking about this
So,
and
so
not
if these
Paul?
objections, if these objections carried any weight whatsoever, you would think there'd be a hell of a lot more atheists around the whole world than only 7% of the global population.
That can I address that point? That's not a bad point you just made. If this is true, you would think there would be. If this was completely made up and false, you would think that there would be more atheists. That's what you're saying. But what I'm saying is that there are more non-Christians than Christians in the world, so that argument backfires on you. There is
How?
indeed, there's way more non-Christians in the world than Christians, so maybe they have read First
Yeah,
Corinthians 15 and said this
yeah,
is bunk.
yeah. Again, you're not telling me anything new or that's newsworthy, Doug. Let's see,
But
7% of the world population.
I'm showing
I
you
think
why
about
I'm showing you why that
I think
argument does
about
not work,
82.
Gavin.
I think about 82, 83% of the total world's population believe in a god
Hmm.
or gods or some type of higher power. 1/3 of the world's population are Christians. That's a hell of a lot of people. 2.6 billion?
Does
That's a
the
hell of a lot
number
of people.
does the number of people make it more or less likely that a belief is true?
It makes it a hell of a lot more likely that the reasons why the people follow Christianity is because it is true and proven to be true.
Okay. If 100 years from now there are more Muslims in the world than Christianity, does that mean Islam is more true than Christianity?
Yeah, these thought experiments are a bit of a masturbatory exercise.
No, but think about it. Let's imagine that there's 6 billion Muslims in the future and only 5 billion Christians. Would you say that, oh, maybe Islam is true? Would you say that?
No, because that's a thought experiment that would never happen, Doug.
It will never happen that Islam will overtake Christianity in numbers?
Um, I
They
don't think
they
so.
reproduce
I know,
faster than
I
Christians
know,
do.
I know. Yeah, again, you, you're telling me things that are already well known.
Yeah.
Um, One of the things I often plead for from atheists is to come up with good questions, but I'm not hearing any good questions. I'm hearing the same old tired objections. And Islam is increasing at a faster rate than Christianity due to increased birth rates, that's for
Yeah,
sure.
exactly.
But Islam still faces some monumental challenges.
Okay.
So
Man, this room is really
time will tell.
popping today.
Time
What's with all the
time will tell.
traffic?
Who was that idiot?
Yeah, we really need everybody to not talk. We're gonna
They
wrap
can't
it.
help themselves.
We
They can't
will.
help
We'll
themselves.
wrap it up, Gavin. I'll state my position. This is my sort of like if we were debating, we're not, but if I were, this would be my closing statement, and hopefully 60 seconds or less. Less. Uh, if Christianity is true, I want to know it. If Christianity is true, I want to know that it's true, but I do not find the evidence compelling for the same reason why I think most people would not believe a man rose from the dead in their own neighborhood based on a document written 15 years ago or 20 or 30 of only one eyewitness account where someone says in the first person, this is what I saw, with no other types of evidence like medical verification that you brought up, or video, audio evidence, DNA evidence. If you're going to believe that a man rose from the dead, and then you got the bigger claim that this man happens to be God, I mean, the evidence is not even close to being sufficient for me. In fact, what would be sufficient for me would be some type of amazing miracle today. And I understand not all people even would believe then, but I think I would. So I hope you're the type of Christian who believes that God is interactive in the world today, can do miracles, and if you and I, Gavin, were walking in the cemetery where my sister died 4 years ago, and you prayed in the name of Jesus that she would rise from the dead, and if there were other people there to make sure that you and I are both not delusional, I think I would drop naturalism immediately, and I would start seeking out what type of Christian to be. The floor is yours.
Sure, sure. Well, equally, I can prove to you that Christianity is true based on the evidence alone. And if we took, I normally take like an inductive method of reasoning to the evidence for God, and also use. Are you laughing?
No, I saw a funny picture. Sorry.
What? Why are you compelled to
That
be an
was somebody else. That
asshole?
was somebody.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
wasn't
he's
PineCreek.
muted.
That wasn't
He's
PineCreek.
muted, Gavin. Yeah, I muted that guy. Go ahead, Gavin.
Okay, so based on the inductive method of reasoning plus the reasons of evidence, it's easy to provide compelling evidence that theism, Christianity, is far more probable than atheism, and that's all there is to it. The evidence speaks for itself.
Okay,
So
Gavin.
yeah, I'd welcome a formal moderated debate with you, Doug. That'd be awesome.
I would just want to say I enjoyed this conversation. I have no ill will towards you, and I hope you have no ill will towards me. I think I strongly, strongly disagree with the things you believe, but you strongly disagree with the things I believe, and I think that's okay. People are different, and I just hope you don't think the worst of me, that that I will die and go to this really horrible place for eternity. But if you do, I'm not worried about it because I really don't believe that place exists in the first place. But I think it would be a
Sure.
horrible. I think it would be a horrible thing to think about, especially if, like, my wife is a Christian, and so she views me as someone. If I die an unbeliever, I go to hell forever, and it hurts her. I mean, can you imagine being married to someone, love someone deeply, and think that when they die, if they die, a non-believer, that they're going to spend eternity in hell? I mean, that would be terrible.
Yeah, but I'm sure your wife, Doug, is praying for you on a daily basis. I'll bet she is.
Oh yeah, I'm sure she is. But I can't
Yeah.
force myself to believe it, right, Gavin? I just can't bring myself to believe something I don't believe. It'd be like me asking you,
Well,
okay,
it's your choice. It's your choice, Doug.
well, let me ask you
You
this,
get to
Gavin.
choose.
Is it your choice? Like, if I asked you to choose to not believe in Christianity right now, could you do it?
No, of course not. Of course, I
Right.
wouldn't choose to disbelieve in Christianity.
Right. It's something that takes a lot of time, right? You have to put yourself in situations where you either gain new knowledge or gain new experiences. But the experiences I've had, the knowledge that I have, leads me to not even come close to believing Christianity is true.
Well, excuse me, Doug. If you get the time, I'd love to do a formal moderated debate with you. It'd be awesome. And I really appreciate the civilness that you've shown, and the maturity. You're 10 times, 20 times the man or the better character than anybody else on Atheist Discord.
Well, I appreciate that. Okay, I think we're done.
Thanks, Doug.
Thanks.
So, Doug, I guess you would say you did demonstrate that you and Gavin can have a cordial discussion, no?
I think so.
Me and Gavin started
There you
throwing some
go.
insults in there, but
Who is this random atheist that's hanging around